All right. Well, good morning, folks. For those that don't know me, my name is Michael Hauck. I currently serve as the Chief People and Experience Officer at congruentX. And after a little bit of coercion, I have my friend Bailey Moss on the call with me this morning, and we're going to talk about Bailey and his firm a little bit today, and how we at congruentX think that they and their products can help your adoption and the challenges that you have with your implementation. So first of all, welcome, Bailey.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, glad to be here. So my name is Bailey Moss, as Mike mentioned. I'm the director of sales here at mscrm add-ons for the Americas, at least, and I've been with the company for just around or just over 6 years. I guess it's now time moves fast, so 6.5 years. And my experience, although I am primarily sales, my experience goes into, in fact, I think we've had some technical conversations into professional services as well as support. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the technical side as well.
Thank you. And anybody that knows me knows that I like to talk about transparency a lot. So full transparency, I've known MSCRM add-ons actually a lot longer than Bailey has. I'm not sure if this is true or not, or if it's just some of your leadership team being overly nice as they can be at times. But I believe that I was one of MSCRM add-ons first clients in the United States. For anybody who doesn't know, they're not based in the US, and I'll let Bailey give you the company history here in just a second. But I think it was 2004 when I became a customer. So this is my
Oh wow,
20th year of knowing and dealing and working with the folks at MSCRM add-ons, and that's part of the reason that I'm so excited to have Bailey here to talk about them and their products in particular a little bit.
I think at 2004 you must have been the first US customer because that was what version 1.2 or version 2.0 of
We were
Microsoft CRM.
we were either still on 1.2, or we might have been in the process of converting to from 1.2 to 3.0. But it was pretty early on in the whole platform. But anyway, so tell us a little bit more about the company and kind of history and that stuff, and where HQ even is, Bailey, if you would, and then we'll talk about some of your solutions.
Yeah, so we were founded in Graz, Austria, quite a ways away from where I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia, where our U.S. office is. We were founded 18 years ago. However, before that, we were primarily a development company that still exists, although it's really the more of the parent shade to MSCRM add-ons. All of our development, support, sales, everything is in-house, so we have no external employees. Although we do have some employees all over the world, but they actually all either started from the Austrian office or the Atlanta office. So I think in fact, we have one traveling person in the office today who works all over the world, but he's currently in Atlanta. But yeah, we're a Microsoft Gold partner. Our primary focus is Microsoft Dynamics, and now, of course, the Power Platform. So we do work in the Dataverse, any environment or any instance that is Dataverse enabled, that you have that Dataverse backend, you can use our solutions. But yeah, our main focus is really to fill gaps in functionality. I always make the joke, we're either extremely lucky or they were just really good solutions to begin with, because the same gaps that we initially filled, we continue to add functionality, to expand functionality, and really try to increase user functionality. Not say functionality too many times, but user experience, I should say. Our goal at the end of the day is to save time and also increase adoption.
And that's exactly why we asked you to join us this morning, right? Is to talk about those two things. Now, before we get too deep into any particular of your products and kind of how they can help organizations with those challenges of user adoption and user experience, I'll give you 30 seconds to kind of do the brief product catalog overview. Of what all you guys have, because it's not, there's other products that don't necessarily focus exclusively on that. I at least want to talk about them before we talk about the products that do focus on user experience and enhancements.
Yeah, so we have six total solutions for Dynamics, and two of those are specific to Power Apps as well, or Canvas apps, Dataverse. The first of which is our flagship, really, it's Documents Core Pack. It's an end-to-end document solution, and that's probably what we'll talk the most about today. So I'll kind of skip along. So next is Attachment Extractor, which is our second most popular product, and that's really a storage reduction with no change to end user experience. So the goal there is to remove storage, lower your cost with no change, because of course users don't like change. The next is a change, which is telephone integration, and it's really a bridge between phone system and Dynamics. I always consider it a light call suite solution. We don't really consider it to be a full call suite, but it's really, this is advanced caller ID along with some tracking and connection between your phone system and Dynamics. The next is actually a customer favorite and one of my favorite tools. It's a light solution. We call it Activity Tools. And it is essentially an Outlook style layout, a friendly, familiar look within Dynamics for all of your activities. And it also adds search capability, content. You can sort, filter, just makes it a lot friendlier. In fact, our sales administrator, who might be in this session, she didn't know that Dynamics could exist without Activity Tools. Although Timeline is getting a lot better, I still much prefer Activity Tools, and it also allows for like things like queue views. After that is Smart Bar. So Smart Bar is essentially easy navigation. It's colorful buttons. They're customizable. They show you quick roll-ups of how many records, so you can navigate between cases, accounts, and you can place them anywhere. Same thing with Activity Tools, anywhere in your Dynamics forms, as well as add JavaScript buttons. So if you want to access data and external links, so you can access data with or within or outside of Dynamics. And finally, Power Search. So I always say that Power Search, if relevant search is like Google, Power Search is like a friendly SQL query, except it's got a UI. It's like it giving users advanced find and not having them have to know how the data structure actually is. It's predefined search criteria. You can make it, if you're searching hundreds of thousands of records, it makes it really friendly.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So since I'm kind of throwing this stuff at you, I'll give you a choice. There's probably 2 or 3 of your products that I'd really like to kind of hone in on, again, with the focus on user adoption and user experience and kind of how to mitigate some of that fear of change that comes with doing these implementations or redoing these implementations or whatever. I'm pretty sure that you know which ones I'm talking about. So I'll let you choose as to which one you want to talk about first.
Yeah, so I think first would be attachment extractor, because that's probably the shorter of the two. And this is maybe more on the technical side, so I'll make it really quick. But essentially, in Dynamics, what you might face is you end up paying for storage more so than, or you have more storage than what you're licensed for. This can be scary, especially to application administrators, architects, because essentially Microsoft is going to charge you or they're going to slow it down. So what we come up with is the ability to pull data, and specifically, this gets a little too technical, but I'll just mention it really quick. Essentially 2 items: files, which make up your file storage, and then email content, which makes up your database storage. Although there's kind of an asterisk there now, which as you like to be, I'd like to be a little clear. There's an asterisk now because essentially any email content that's older than 1 year is now moved to file. So it has become a lot cheaper. However, if you're an organization who's pushing out 100,000, 500,000 emails a year, it's still going to build up within that year time frame. So we still extract that. And then next would be, I'd say, Documents Core Pack. I think I could waste everyone's time all day.
I'm going to stop you there. We'll come back to Documents Core Pack and do a deeper dive, because I think that's the big one. And then I actually want to talk about Activity Tools a little bit after that, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah.
And there's a specific reason that I want to talk about it. But real quick on Attachment Extractor, if you listen to Bailey's explanation, your immediate reaction is it's great. It saves organizations money and so on and so forth. But what does that have to do with user adoption and user experience? Well, it may not have much to do with user adoption, but from a user experience perspective, there's lots of ways. I could write code, if you will, whether you want to call it low code or pro code. We're not going to get into that today, right? But I could strip attachments off of emails and store them somewhere. The problem is, if I do that, now the user has to know where to find them, right? And so to me, where this particular solution helps is that from a user experience perspective, it's virtually indistinguishable from the out-of-the-box experience. And that's the cool thing to me, is that you've kind of solved the storage issue or mitigated the storage issue by storing things in a lesser cost storage media. But from a user's perspective, it's no different. So, maybe the best user experience is no change, right? And that's why I asked Bailey to at least mention that tool today, is because even though the problem that it's solving is not a user experience problem, If you solve that problem in a technical fashion and you ignore your users, you have a problem. And so I like the simplicity and the fact that it kind of does both.
Yep. And in fact, a common support case during trials is, hey, it doesn't look like it's doing anything from a user perspective. And that's our goal. So our goal is they should look
Perfect.
exactly the same.
Exactly. Thank you. So let's talk about Documents Core Pack, Bailey. Now, keep in mind that we only have like 20 minutes. So we got to do the Cliff Notes version of all of the things that Documents Core Pack can do.
Yeah, so if you want, I can also save some of the new features that are coming out for the end. They're actually not released yet, but are in beta. But yeah, so like Mike said, I could probably burn a couple hours, if not 24 hours, on just the template side. But Documents Core Pack, as I mentioned, is an end-to-end document solution, and really what it is, what I mean by that is from designing your templates in Microsoft Word to the actual generation, whether that's sending as an email, a quote, as a contract, e-signature, sending it to a printer. That's it. It handles all of that. So it's a one step or one kind of solution for that whole document process. To give you an idea of some of the core features, and our number one, I'd say what gets brought up the most in terms of, hey, this is where we ran into a roadblock out of the box, is when you're designing a template, you might be limited to one relationship. And this is starting to get technical. But essentially, out of the box, you're limited to, hey, I'm on the quote. I want to go to quote line. That's perfectly fine. But say you want to bring in product details, then it starts to get a little bit complex. You have to start adding workarounds, intersect entities. So instead, you can use Documents Core Pack. Our designer is much more friendly. You just drop in a relationship, set up your filtering, your sorting, however you like, or just leave it open. And you can go as far as, I mean, we have no limit of link elements that you can add. Additional functionality, and this is more on the template side, is things like conditional logic. So we can hide or show logic. This is really we're non-vertical, so I see all kinds of documents. But this is specific, I guess, to contracts. A lot of the conditional logic or terms conditions on a quote, depending on what country, or even what's surprisingly common is branding. So an organization might operate with several with an umbrella with several business units under it, and so we can conditionally rebrand a template and change the header, change the logo, change the terms, change the address. So conditional logic, it's very powerful. You can hide or show dynamic content, static content, tables, images, and I could really go all day. So feel free to stop me, Mike. But I mean, there's so much functionality on the template side, and then we can get into the generation side.
Yeah, I just want to comment on a couple things, just some things that we've seen and done at congruentX with your product, right? So the last thing that you were just talking about, the conditional branding and stuff, we have one client in particular that we relatively recently implemented Documents Core Pack for, and it was exactly that need. Like they literally have a different template for every one of their clients. It's client specific, and they were really struggling. And when we looked at their system, it was just a mess in terms of all these templates that they had out and everything else. And not just the fact that when we showed them the solution and how the solution worked, and it was that aha moment where suddenly my life is going to get better. But I think literally, if I look at the number of templates that they had versus the number of templates that they have now, it's less than 5%. Like it went way down in terms of the number of different templates that they actually have to have because of the product's availability to have that branching and that capability of conditionally changing some things. So that was one in particular. And then we have another client who their business model and their business services are fairly complex, and it was definitely one where when we first bumped into them, they had a lot of challenges with how do we do this in a template with the out of the box functionality, and they had spent a lot of time and frankly money with a previous partner trying to customize and build their own thing, and we were able to replace that with your product, which not only made it a lot simpler for them to use, but also as their business changes and they need to do new and different things to create their own templates, right? They don't have to call us to create the templates. Once they've been educated on how to do that and how to use the tool, it's pretty self-sufficient. And that's one of the things I like about the tool. And then the last thing to your point is it is a industry neutral solution, right? Anybody who is using templates or producing quotes or contracts or whatever can leverage and benefit from the tool. And as I said, to me, the biggest plus is while there's a little bit of a learning curve, it's not a big learning curve. And once most organizations, once they learn it, they can be self-sufficient. They don't have to rely on us or you guys to leverage the product and the value that it brings.
And you brought up a good point, which is essentially the maintenance of templates. Large organizations making even small changes to out of the box templates often find difficulty, whether that template breaks. If you have any experience with the out of the box word mail merge, you know that this exists. Where if you make a change, you can possibly break you shouldn't be doing this in production, but you could break a production template. What I try to mention is how easy it is to maintain templates from both a change perspective as well as, hey, we're upgrading, we're migrating to a new environment. In fact, I've had several customers migrate from one environment, whether they're moving from public to GCC or just having, they've been acquired, so now they're merging to a different tenant. How do we move our templates? And we make it very friendly to promote templates between environment, promote changes. But even if, say, you remove a field or you remove a field from dynamics that exists in your template, all you're going to receive from us is, hey, this is an error. It's a missing attribute. Remove it from your template, and your template will work. And we try to make it that friendly to update, maintain templates. And as Mike mentioned, we try to really train and have a great knowledge base for the end user to start making their own changes, their own modifications to templates, and a really good support team. I will say that. I think that's what we receive some of the most positive feedback on, apart from our products. And Mike, you can speak to our support team as well, because I think you know a few of them.
I do know a few of them. Yeah, and it's funny, as you were talking, Bailey, I was thinking about it. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but it's like, boy, if removing dependencies were only as simple as the way that you guys make removing fields off of templates, I think all of our lives in the Power Platform ecosystem would be simpler. Just in case
Oh
anybody
yeah.
from Microsoft happens to be listening, they could learn something. Um, I do want to talk about the new features, but before we do that, I want to talk about some of the other tools that aren't necessarily user experience focused, but again, based on our clients and use, and as somebody who's been a long time, partner and user of some of your tools, what's interesting to me, like if I think about SmartBar, right? You guys actually created SmartBar before Canvas apps and the Power Platform really became a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the use case is maybe a little dated because the problem that used to be there is a very different problem, if a problem at all. In some of your other tools, Power Search is another one, right? Power Search, I believe, predates Relevant Search, right? If my recollection is so. When people see these tools now, if they're new to the space, they might be like, well, I don't need that tool and everything else, and different conversation. But what's important to me is that I know, because I've heard it from clients, of somebody new comes into the organization and they're like, well, you don't need SmartBar anymore. You can use a custom page from a Canvas app and put it in here.
Mm-hmm.
And the user goes, just leave it alone. It works, right? And I mentioned earlier, I want to talk to activity tools about activity tools a little bit, because that to me is one in particular where it's really funny to me as to how users get set in a way of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
and how activity tools kind of changes how they look at things. And even though some would argue that that's kind of a dated thing, that you guys have heard a lot from customers of, don't mess with my activity tools. Like, it
Oh,
works, it does what I need it to do, and nothing's broken, so stay away.
yeah. So to first talk to the about SmartBar, really what we found is it's still just it's friendlier. So people who are new to CRM or existing to CRM, I could see how a veteran architect or a senior consultant would say, you have related. But when you're bringing someone who's brand new, who has maybe took one MIS class in college or even less, they see the navigation of dynamics as to be a bit. It's like drinking from a fire hose. What we replace is just saying, here are nice buttons. It's, of course, I don't want to get into cost or licensing too much, but it's very low cost, and it's something that you don't have to maintain as an organization. So you mentioned like a Canvas app. Yeah, we could probably build a Canvas app that's very similar, specific to an entity, make it very friendly. But maintaining that Canvas app, it's, from a support perspective, if there's anything wrong. But what we find is, if there's ever it's happened before where someone says, hey, we no longer need this license. Within a week, I receive an urgent, we need to reinstate this right now. An executive team member used it every day, and now they're wondering why it's no longer there, because it becomes very business critical. Activity tools more so. I find that activity tools I use every day. I say part of working in CRM, especially at least on the sales side and being a small to mid-sized company, you're a little bit of a detective in CRM. You're always looking for stuff. I mean, if you don't know how to find stuff, someone might reach out about a deal that was before I started 6 years ago. And so you have to go through thousands of activities. Where it makes it really friendly is the ability to do a content search, and that you place it on any entity, and it's looking specifically at that entity's activities or that records. I should be saying table. That table. I'm stuck in my ways. Um, but essentially, I use it every day. I'm using content search. I'm filtering by activity type. Someone says, hey, I called your support team about this, and I go in and I look it up. And it's also extremely useful for queues. So if you use things like support queues or email queues for support, any type of marketing queues, it makes it very friendly. And it's just that much more like Outlook, that it just is a huge change compared to Timeline. I think Timeline is a huge improvement compared to what it was, but I still find myself, if those who use activity tools can't live without it. And there is some new functionality that should be coming along with activity tools, but mainly now I think that the high points are the ability to search, reply, look through activities, and also the queue view. I'd say are the main factors there.
Okay. And you kind of alluded to it. I'm looking at time, trying to be cognizant of people's time, and I want to make sure we have at least 5 minutes for questions in case anybody has questions. If we don't get to them today, they can send them later. But before we do that, because I know you guys recently had a webinar on some of the new features, can you briefly talk about some of at least the new features that you're allowed to talk about at this point?
Yeah, so I'll start with the high level, the existing features, and then some that I can talk about that are forthcoming this year that should be available here shortly. So high level new features, and in the first I'll start out with module specific, and these aren't too new, but a lot of people don't know unless you had this requirement. So the first would be specific to field service is JSON support. So anyone who's worked in field service, if you've worked with the inspection responses, you know that for some reason they're stored in JSON. I'm sure that there's a reason. I don't know what that is on the sales side. But essentially, we now have the ability to pull in JSON into templates. So whether that's in field service or you're surfacing it in Power Automate, it makes it really easy to pull that data into a document versus what it is currently out of the box. The next would be customer insights, of course, replacing the marketing module. We now support generating and processing documents within customer journeys. So make it very easy with Power Automate to generate documents, whether you're creating and printing a letter on registration, like for this event, sending a contract through the customer journeys, and much more. Really, anywhere you want to insert or send a document, you can now do that with Documents Core Pack and customer journeys. High-level functionality for Documents Core Pack that's relatively new but not well known would be our scalability in terms of batch document generation. So we do support smaller customers generating 100 documents a month, up to 8 million documents a year. So the solution is very scalable from a SMB perspective to an enterprise perspective, and we're really focused on what is load balancing essentially in the background. The next would be Power Automate and Canvas app integrations. I believe we're coming up on our 4th iteration of our Power Automate connectors, and you can access that same API in Canvas apps. And then what was just shown in our webinar was the ability to pull in multiple documents from SharePoint when you're generating a document. So it gives you the option to select documents that you'd like to be attached in the process from the related document location. So of course, you could do that before with Power Automate and a Canvas app and Documents Core Pack, but we've added is the more front-end friendly functionality. But let me know if I can stop before.
What you're saying is you made the user experience better? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, there's always the conversation of build versus buy with any technology, but what we've added is just very friendly. It's pre-built and it's supported, which is a huge overlook. When you're looking at implementation, you want to look at how this is going to be supported, not just the end result of the functionality.
Again, being transparent, right? When you mentioned the JSON piece in field service, that was something that I wasn't aware of. And yeah, I'm sure someone had a reason somewhere for why that is in JSON, but just because there's a reason doesn't mean it's a good reason, right? So to your point, it's one of those things that it is what it is, but why does it have to be as painful as it is? So that's what I like about your organization and working with you guys over the years, is that you find challenges that the space, the ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, the channel is experiencing, again, not necessarily industry specific, and you try to find a better way to solve those problems. And that's why we've been partners for as long as we have, and why I enjoy working with you. 5 minutes left. Anybody on the call have any questions for Bailey or I on the particular topic this morning? Tasha, you probably have to open it up if you haven't already, sorry. All right, if nobody has any questions, and I'll give you more time, we're not out of time yet, I'm gonna ask the obvious question. You alluded to it, Bailey. I'm not looking for specifics, but explain to the audience how your pricing model works.
Yeah, so there's two separate pricing models. There's really Documents Core Pack and Attachment Extractor. They have one model, and the rest have their own model. So for Documents Core Pack and Attachment Extractor, it is essentially a site-based license. We look at everyone that has read or has write privileges within Dynamics. Every user, whether that's to our tool or not, they would be counted in a license. And to say, the median cost of the license we've kept extremely low. I think you'll be surprised if you ever look at our price list, which is available on our website. I mean, to cover 10 users, it's $825 a year. That covers 10 users, all the functionality that I've mentioned. We really don't parse out functionality. It's all there in that license. That's hosting everything, and it's going to be the same for Attachment Extractor. For telephone integration, activity tools, SmartBar, and Power Search, it can be licensed per user as well as site-based. So you can really license that how you'd like. And of course, you have a monthly or annual option for licensing. And then, not to get too salesy, but you can also you can combine these products. So we're of course going to have preferred pricing if you combine, a lot of our customers go with like Documents Core Pack and Attachment Extractor in one go. However, if you want to add on things along the way and trial them, we can of course facilitate that.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Before I open it up one more time for questions, before we run out of time, just for the audience's sake, since we are a partner, if you want to buy any of mscrm add-ons, tools, or whatever, you can come through us, or you can go direct to them. Just either way works. But we're glad to assist you. As you can tell from the call, we've known each other for a long time and enjoy working with each other. So if we can add value, we're glad to do it. If you want to go straight, that's fine. They know where to find us if they need us. One more time for questions. Anybody have any questions? You can either come off mic and ask your question, or if you're not comfortable with that, by all means, drop it in the chat. And we will do our best to answer it now, or if necessary, open it after or answer it after the fact, if we can't get to it now. Anything else? All right, I don't believe in wasting people's time. Bailey, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank the audience for making some time to listen in. Hopefully it was helpful. If you've got questions or even tips or suggestions for either Bailey and I and how we could make this more useful for you, by all means, please reach out and let us know. And with that, we'll let you get on with your day. Thanks, Bailey.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Bye, all.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too.